Okay, the next thing we want to do is to make a two-column chart so that we can compare the grade distributions this semester to the overall pattern of grade distributions. And so you'll notice, of course, that we left off on this special, chart page that we created in the last example. So we have to go over to the grade distribution page again. And the thing is, right, if we want to compare, make this a little bigger for you. Right, if we want to compare like the distribution of students' grades this semester versus the overall sort of average for the whole program and for the whole year, right, it's really hard to compare those numbers because they're of different magnitudes again. So what we're going to need to do is generate a percentage of the totals and compare those over time, right? And this is a very important sort of way of thinking, right? If you want to compare, for instance, one company's performance versus another company's, how could you compare a very small company and their, on their cost structure, for instance? How could you compare a small company's cost structure to a very large company's cost structure? Well, the raw numbers don't allow you to do that. You have to find some basis for comparison. And so one of the easiest and most straightforward things that can be done is by just comparing percentages of some total. But you will remember from accounting classes that you can also compare ratios between one business and another. So that's something important to keep in mind. But right now, we're going to compare percentages. So how do we calculate a percentage? Well, the first thing we need to do is calculate the totals. And so the book has you use the quick sum button, which is up here, or you can just hit equals sum. I personally don't tend to use the quick sum button. I'll just say equals sum, and it'll grab, you just tell it what to grab, thusly. Right, so we've got 82 total students this semester. You can copy that formula over using the autofill function because I'm lazy. There it is. We had 2,000 students total. And now what we want to do is calculate the percentage of 82 that is represented by each of these categories. Okay. So in order to calculate the percentage, you want to go, it is 16 here divided by this sum. Now remember, if you make the sum an absolute cell reference in the row only, right? So only in front of the number 9, we'll be able to copy this formula across to the next column, and then we'll be able to copy those columns all the way down. So I'll show you how to do that. So we hit enter there. So 16 represents 20% of 82, right? We take this, because that row is an absolute cell reference, but the column isn't, if we copy that over, what you see now is that this 500 is compared now to the total representing the total number of all of the Excel students, or the number that is in column C, right? So by holding only the row absolute, we can go ahead and copy this formula over. I have so many tricks for being lazy with Excel. Now we can take both of those columns and pull them down at the same time. Okay. And so here are all our numbers that we have calculated, and they match, so that's always nice. And now what we want to do is create a column chart using the grade distribution column over here, and then these percentages for both of them over here. So the way that you do that is you highlight column A3 through 8. Use the control option on a Windows machine, or the command option on a Mac machine, right? And then pick up these two columns over here. Okay? And then you grab insert, And you take, I guess, this chart up here, column chart, and you could select, this one looks good. And there it is. So what I see is that this semester, the students aren't quite doing as well. You have fewer in the A range, slightly more in the F range. And so, you know, that's just interesting data. If it's a trend that continues, you might want to do something about it as a professor. Okay, so again, let's see, they have you move this chart over to, there we go. Move it over so that it is adjacent to the data, and then make it taller, I guess, down to row 16. Make it a little taller up this way too, I guess. And there it is. There's our grade comparison charts. This, by the way, down here, this is a legend. Okay. We can change the chart title to grade distribution. Another important element to note with charts, with column charts, right? This is very clear. You can see what's going on. But here is an example of a column chart, and I got to tell you, you guys, I see these all the time. As a matter of fact, I've got one sitting in my email inbox right now. And, you know, if you get too many bars, the chart becomes just too difficult to read, too difficult to tell what's going on. So here we have, right, in each department of a college, we have, let's see, the number of majors, the number of faculty, the number of staff, and the number of courses. So this is interesting information. But just because you can make a chart doesn't mean you should. You know, what are we actually interested in here? What is it that we're actually comparing? Are we comparing the number of majors in the departments, across departments? Are we comparing the ratio of the number of majors to the number of faculty across departments? Right, so this chart is meaningless. Right, there's too many bars, you can't tell what's being discussed. So, you know, making charts technically is a very, very simple process, but the difficult thing is using your analytic minds to think about what it is that you're trying to communicate. What could this information be used for? Okay, I'm going to start there, and then we're going to move on to pie charts.